Captain Zara Chen was nursing her third cup of synthetic coffee in the communications bay of the mining station Perseverance when the alert chimed. The sound was different from the usual supply requests or administrative updates, deeper, more urgent. She set down her mug and walked over to the console where Communications Officer Riley Martinez was frowning at his screen. "What VE we got, Riley?" Zara asked, leaning over his shoulder. "Unknown transmission, Captain. It's weird. The signal originated from outside our solar system, but it's using standard galactic common protocols." "Someone wants to talk." Zara felt a chill run down her spine. In the 3 years since humanity had been grudgingly admitted to the Galactic Council as a probationary species, they'd received exactly 0 unsolicited communications from other civilizations. Most aliens seemed to go out of their way to avoid humans, though no one had ever explained why. "Put it through," she ordered. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a creature that looked like a cross between a praying mantis and a butterfly. Its iridescent wings twitched nervously as it spoke in perfectly translated galactic common. "Greetings, inhabitants of the Sol system. I am Ambassador Kletak of the Hegemony. We represent a coalition of 17 civilized species who have been monitoring your activities with growing concern." Zara exchanged glances with Riley. Activities could mean anything from their mining operations to their habit of putting hot sauce on everything. Ambassador Kletak continued, its voice taking on a more official tone. "Your species has been classified as Deathworlders, a designation reserved for the most dangerous and unpredictable beings in known space. We have tolerated your presence in the galaxy thus far, but recent intelligence suggests you pose an unacceptable threat to civilized society." "What kind of threat?" Zara found herself asking, though she knew the alien couldn't hear her. As if reading her mind, Kletak's mandibles clicked together in what might have been annoyance. "Your expansion into asteroid mining, your militaristic tendencies, and most concerning of all, your recent establishment of colonies on worlds that would kill any sensible species within hours. This behavior cannot continue." The image shifted to show what appeared to be a massive fleet of ships, sleek, organic-looking vessels that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. "Therefore, the Hegemony has authorized the deployment of a containment fleet to your system. You have 72 hours to cease all expansion activities and submit to permanent isolation. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force." The transmission ended abruptly, leaving the communications bay in stunned silence. "Holy shit," Riley whispered. Zara was already moving toward the command center. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command. Priority Alpha." "Captain," Riley called after her, "what do you think they mean by Deathworlders?" She paused at the doorway. "I don't know, but I have a feeling we're about to find out." Admiral Sarah Okafor was in the middle of a budget meeting when the call came through. The holographic display in the Earth Defense Command Center lit up with Zara's face, and one look told Sarah this wasn't a routine check-in. "Admiral, we have a situation," Zara began without preamble. "We just received what amounts to an ultimatum from something called the Hegemony. They're sending a fleet to contain us." Sarah felt her stomach drop. She'd been preparing for this possibility ever since humanity's first contact with the Galactic Council 3 years ago. The other species had been polite but distant, treating humans like dangerous animals that might bite if provoked. Now it seemed their fears had finally overcome their caution. "How long do we have?" she asked. 72 hours before their fleet arrives." "Admiral, they called us Deathworlders." "Any idea what that means?" Sarah did know, actually. The classification had been buried deep in the Galactic Council's initial contact documents, so deep that only a few xenobiologists and military analysts had bothered to read it. Earth was rated as a Class 12 death world, meaning it was considered one of the most hostile environments in known space. Most Galactic Council species evolved on garden worlds with stable climates, no natural disasters, and ecosystems so gentle that the concept of a food chain was purely theoretical. Humans, on the other hand, had evolved on a planet that was actively trying to kill them. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, asteroid impacts, predators with massive teeth and claws. Earth had thrown everything it could at early humanity, and humanity had not only survived but thrived. The result was a species that other aliens found deeply unsettling. "It means they're scared of us," Sarah said simply. "Get back here, Captain. We're going to need every ship we can get." "Roger that, Admiral. But what are we supposed to do against a fleet of alien warships?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment, staring at the tactical display that showed Earth's modest defensive capabilities. 57 ships of various sizes, most of them converted mining vessels or exploration craft. Against an unknown number of purpose-built alien warships, it didn't look promising. "We do what humans have always done," she said finally. "We improvise." The next 24 hours were a blur of activity. Every human ship in the solar system received emergency recall orders. Mining stations were evacuated, research outposts were abandoned, and merchant vessels were pressed into service as makeshift warships. The civilian population was informed of the situation through carefully worded announcements that downplayed the severity of the threat while urging calm. Dr. Elena Vesquez, humanity's leading xenobiologist, found herself in the unusual position of military advisor. She stood in the Earth Defense Command Center, surrounded by displays showing incoming ship positions and defensive preparations, trying to explain alien psychology to a room full of generals and admirals. "The key thing to understand," she said, gesturing at a holographic representation of Ambassador Kletak, "is that most Galactic Council species evolved on what we would consider paradise worlds. No extreme weather, no dangerous animals, no natural disasters. Their idea of a serious threat is a rainstorm or a herbivore with mild indigestion." Admiral Okafor frowned. "So why are they so afraid of us?" "Because we're everything they're not. We evolved on a world that was constantly trying to kill us, and it shows. Our bone density is 3 times that of the average council species. Our reflexes are faster, our immune systems are more robust, and our tolerance for stress and pain is off the charts. To them, we're basically walking weapons." General Morrison, the head of Earth's ground forces, looked skeptical. "You're saying they're afraid of us because we're tougher than they are?" "It's more than that," Elena continued. "It's our entire approach to problems. When a council species encounters an obstacle, they tend to go around it or wait for it to resolve itself. When humans encounter an obstacle, we smash through it, blow it up, or find 17 different ways to make it work for us instead of against us. That kind of thinking terrifies them. But they're still willing to fight us," Admiral Okafor pointed out. Elena nodded grimly. "Because they're more afraid of what we might become if left unchecked. In their view, it's better to contain the threat now than to wait and see what a species like ours might accomplish with access to galactic technology." The discussion was interrupted by an aide rushing into the room. "Admiral, we're getting reports from the outer sensor grid. Multiple contacts approaching from beyond Neptune's orbit." Admiral Okafor turned to the main display, which now showed a collection of red dots moving steadily toward the inner solar system. "How many?" "Initial count shows 43 vessels, ma'am. All of them significantly larger than our heaviest cruisers." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. 43 ships against humanity's hastily assembled fleet of 57. On paper, it wasn't hopeless, but everyone in the room knew that alien technology was likely far more advanced than Earth's jury-rigged weapons and armor. "Time to intercept?" Admiral Okafor asked. "At current speed, approximately 18 hours until they reach Earth orbit." "Then we better get moving. Signal all ships, battle stations." The human fleet moved to meet the alien armada near the asteroid belt, hoping to use the rocky debris as cover and to keep the fighting away from Earth. Captain Zara Chen found herself commanding a squadron of converted mining ships, their industrial lasers and explosives repurposed into weapons of war. It wasn't ideal, but it was what they had. The alien ships were beautiful in a terrifying way. Each vessel looked like it had been grown rather than built, with smooth, organic curves and a faint bioluminescent glow. They moved with an eerie grace, maintaining perfect formation as they approached the human position. "All ships, this is Admiral Okafor," came the voice over the calm. "Remember, our goal isn't to win a straight fight. It's to make them think twice about messing with us. Hit hard, hit fast, and make every shot count." The first exchange of fire came when the fleets were still thousands of kilometers apart. The alien ships opened up with weapons that seemed to bend light itself, creating rainbow-colored beams that reached across space in perfect silence. The human response was more crude but no less effective: missiles, railgun rounds, and industrial-grade laser pulses that lit up the darkness. The first human ship to die was the converted freighter Rising Sunday. A direct hit from an alien beam weapon caused its hull to simply dissolve, as if the metal itself had forgotten how to exist. But even as it died, the Rising Sun's crew managed to get off a spread of mining charges that crippled one of the alien vessels, sending it spinning away from the formation with atmosphere venting from multiple breaches. "Jesus," Captain Chen muttered, watching the alien ship's elegant lines marred by the crude but effective human weapons. "Their hulls are strong, but they don't handle explosive decompression any better than we do." The battle quickly devolved into a chaotic melee. The aliens had superior technology, but the humans had something else: unpredictability. Where the alien ships moved in perfect formation, following established tactical doctrines, the human vessels darted and weaved like angry hornets, using every dirty trick their crews could think of. The mining ship Prospector's Dream used its cargo manipulator arms to grab an alien vessel and slam it into an asteroid. The cruiser Defiant overloaded its reactor and rammed an enemy ship, both vessels disappearing in a brief, brilliant star. A squadron of maintenance pods, armed with nothing but welding torches and improvised explosives, swarmed around a massive alien dreadnought like parasites, cutting through hull plates and planting charges in vital systems. "This is insane," Commander Torres of the Resilience reported over the comm. "They're not adapting to our tactics at all. It's like they've never seen anything like this before." That was exactly the case, Dr. Vasquez realized as she watched the battle from Earth Defense Command. The aliens were fighting according to established protocols, probably refined over thousands of years of conflicts between civilized species. But humans weren't civilized, not by Galactic Council standards. They were barbarians, savages who didn't follow the rules of proper warfare. And that was exactly what was saving them. Ambassador Kletak watched the battle unfold from the bridge of the Hegemony flagship Harmonious Purpose, and felt something approaching panic. This wasn't how space battles were supposed to work. There were protocols, established methods of engagement that had been refined over millennia. Ship fought ship in orderly formation, weapons were discharged at optimal range, and the superior force achieved victory through technological advantage and tactical supremacy. The humans were doing none of these things. They fought like wild animals. Their ships moved in unpredictable patterns, used improvised weapons, and seemed to have no regard for their own safety. When the Radiant Wisdom had been disabled by those crude explosive devices, Kletak had expected the humans to finish it off with a proper weapons exchange. Instead, they'd simply left it drifting and moved on to attack other targets. It was barbaric. It was uncivilized. It was utterly terrifying. "Status report," Kletak commanded, trying to keep the tremor out of its voice. "We have lost 7 vessels with 4 more severely damaged," reported the tactical officer, a member of the crystalline Sharn species whose natural mathematical abilities made them excellent coordinators. "Human losses are 12 vessels destroyed, but their remaining ships show no signs of withdrawing." That was another thing that made no sense. Any civilized species would have retreated by now, having made their point and demonstrated their resolve. The humans just kept fighting, as if the concept of tactical withdrawal was foreign to them. "Sir," the communications officer spoke up, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet." "Put it through." The main display lit up with the image of a middle-aged human female wearing what appeared to be a military uniform. Her hair was graying, her face was lined with stress, but her eyes held a cold determination that made Kletak's wings flutter nervously. "This is Admiral Sarah Okafor of Earth Defense Command," the human said. "I don't know who you think you are, but you just made the biggest mistake of your species' existence." Kletak found its voice. "You are outgunned and outnumbered, Admiral. Surrender now and we may show mercy." The human's expression didn't change. "Mercy? You attacked our home. You tried to cage us like animals. You want to see what Deathworlders are really capable of?" She leaned forward, and Kletak involuntarily stepped back from the screen. "You're about to find out." The transmission ended, and almost immediately the tactical display exploded with new contacts. Dozens of them, emerging from the asteroid belt where they'd apparently been hiding.
Where did they come from? Kletak demanded.
Unknown, sir. They were not present during our initial scans of the system. But Dr. Vasquez, watching from Earth, knew exactly where they'd come from. In the 18 hours since the alien fleet had been detected, every human ship in the solar system had been racing toward Earth. Mining vessels from the outer planets, research ships from the Kuiper Belt, even the skeleton crews of mothballed military vessels from Luna's shipyards. They'd all converged on the asteroid belt, using the natural cover to hide their approach. The new wave of human ships wasn't as well armed as the first group, but there were more of them, and they brought something else: pure, focused rage. These weren't just military personnel following orders. These were miners who'd been forced to abandon their claims, scientists who'd seen their life's work threatened, families who'd been told their children might not have a future among the stars. They hit the alien fleet like a tsunami of steel and fury. The second phase of the battle was even more chaotic than the first. Human ships came from every direction, using tactics that no sane species would attempt. Cargo haulers loaded with mining explosives turned themselves into guided missiles. Research vessels used their sensor arrays to jam alien communications. A civilian transport tried to ram the alien flagship, only to be cut in half by defensive fire, but the forward section kept going, its dying pilot somehow managing to crash into the ship's command section. Captain Chen found herself in command of what was left of her squadron, 3 ships out of the original 8. Her own vessel, the converted mining platform Determination, was running on emergency power and held together by prayer and duct tape. But she wasn't done fighting. Chen to all ships, she broadcast on an open channel. Anyone still flying, form up on my position.
We're going after their command ship.
The response was immediate. Ships limped toward her position from across the battlefield, damaged, battered, but still functional.
A destroyer with half its hull missing.
A scientific vessel broadcasting its surrender signal while simultaneously charging its weapons. A mining ship that had somehow jury-rigged a mass driver to launch chunks of asteroid at relativistic speeds. Skipper, her communications officer said, "I'm getting a signal from Earth."
It's Admiral Okafor. Zara felt her heart sink.
If the Admiral was calling personally, it probably meant Earth was preparing for the worst.
Put her through.
Admiral Okafor's face appeared on the screen, and Zara was surprised to see her smiling.
Captain Chen, I have some good news for you.
Good news would be welcome right about now, ma'am.
That message you received from the hegemony?
The one declaring us a threat to galactic civilization?
Okafor's smile widened. It wasn't just sent to us.
It was broadcast on all Galactic Council frequencies, including the open channels used by civilian ships and monitoring stations.
Zara felt a chill run down her spine. Meaning?
Meaning every species in known space now knows that the hegemony just declared war on the humans without council approval. Including some species that aren't too happy with the hegemony's recent expansion policies. As if summoned by her words, new contacts began appearing on the tactical display. Ships with configurations Zara had never seen before, angular vessels that looked like they were built for war, sleek craft that seemed to bend space around themselves, and massive constructs that defied easy categorization. "Captain," her sensor officer called out, "I'm reading 17 different ship types out there. None of them match hegemony configurations." The first new arrival to break radio silence was a massive, predatory-looking vessel that painted Zara's ship with targeting sensors before broadcasting on an open frequency. "Human vessels, this is War Leader Thrax of the Vorthan Republic.
We received your distress call."
"We didn't send any distress call," Zara replied, confused. A sound that might have been laughter came through the calm. "Your entire species is a distress call, little human. The hegemony's proclamation made it clear that they intend to forcibly contain a species for the crime of being too strong.
This sets a precedent that threatens every non-hegemony world in the galaxy."
Another voice broke in, this one speaking in musical tones that somehow conveyed menace.
"This is Symphony of War Songs of the Melodic Collective.
The hegemony's actions violate 17 articles of the Galactic Peace Accords. They have forfeited their right to protection under interstellar law. A third voice joined the conversation, speaking in clicks and buzzes that the universal translators struggled to interpret. Hivemind Unit 777 Alpha of the Swarm Consciousness concurs. Hegemony aggression threatens stability of known space. Corrective action authorized. Zara looked around her bridge, seeing her own bewilderment reflected in her crew's faces. How many ships are we talking about? The answer came from her sensor officer, whose voice cracked slightly. Captain, I'm reading over 200 vessels. And more are arriving every minute. Ambassador Kletak was experiencing what humans might recognize as a panic attack. The carefully planned containment operation had turned into a nightmare of galactic proportions. Ships from a dozen different species were pouring into the system, and not one of them was answering hegemony hails with anything resembling diplomacy. How did this happen? Kletak demanded of its staff. How did they mobilize so quickly? The communications officer, a nervous Quillic whose feathers were molting from stress, stammered out a response. Sir, the preliminary intelligence suggests that several species have been monitoring the situation. The moment our declaration was broadcast, they interpreted it as an act of aggression against the established order. But we have legal authority. The containment protocols clearly state. The containment protocols require unanimous council approval for enforcement, the tactical officer interrupted. We acted with only hegemony authorization. Under interstellar law, that makes this an illegal invasion. Kletak felt its world crumbling. The containment operation was supposed to be a simple show of force, designed to keep the dangerous humans from spreading their chaotic influence throughout the galaxy. Instead, it had triggered the largest military response in galactic history. Sir, the sensor operator called out, new contacts on the edge of the system. It's the Council Enforcement Fleet. The main display shifted to show a group of massive, imposing vessels bearing the distinctive silver and blue markings of the Galactic Council's military arm. These weren't the elegant, organic ships of the hegemony or the brutal war machines of the Vorthan Republic. These were the ultimate expression of galactic law and order, built to end conflicts rather than fight them. The lead ship opened communications immediately. Hegemony vessels, this is Arbitrator Prime Veltar of the Council Enforcement Fleet. You are in violation of Articles 7, 12, and 23 of the Galactic Peace Accords. You will cease hostilities immediately and prepare to be escorted to Council space for judgment. Kletak's wings drooped. There was no arguing with the Arbitrator Prime. The Council Enforcement Fleet had authority that superseded even hegemony sovereignty. We were acting to contain a legitimate threat to galactic civilization. That determination is not yours to make without Council approval, Veltar replied coldly. Stand down your weapons and prepare for escort. But before Kletak could respond, another voice cut across the communications channel. It was Admiral Okafor, broadcasting from Earth. Arbitrator Prime, this is Admiral Sarah Okafor of Earth Defense Command. Before you take the hegemony fleet into custody, I think you should know something about us dangerous humans. Proceed, Admiral. In the last 4 hours, we've had over 200 ships from 17 different species arrive in our system. Ships from the Vorthan Republic, the Melodic Collective, the Swarm Consciousness, and a dozen others. They came because they were afraid of what the hegemony's actions might mean for their own sovereignty. Kletak felt a chill run through its exoskeleton. Where was the human going with this? But here's the thing, Okafor continued. Not one of those ships fired on hegemony vessels without explicit provocation. Despite having overwhelming numerical superiority, despite having every legal right to defend themselves and their allies, they exercised restraint. They waited for proper authority to arrive. Your point, Admiral? Veltar inquired. My point is that the most dangerous and uncivilized species in the galaxy just demonstrated better discipline and respect for galactic law than the hegemony did. Maybe you need to reconsider exactly who the threat to civilization really is. The communications channel fell silent for a long moment. Then Veltar spoke again, and Kletak could hear something that might have been amusement in the arbitrator's voice. A fair point, Admiral. Hegemony Fleet, you are hereby ordered to surrender all weapons and prepare for immediate escort to Council space.
The human system is placed under council protection pending a full investigation of this incident.
As hegemony ships began powering down their weapons and moving into escort formation, Kletak slumped in its command chair.
The operation had been a complete disaster.
Worse than a disaster, it had been a humiliation that would echo through hegemony space for generations.
But the worst part was the realization that the humans had been right all along.
They weren't the barbarians.
The hegemony was.
3 weeks later, Captain Zara Chen found herself in a position she'd never expected, sitting in the Galactic Council chambers on the neutral world of Nexus Prime, testifying before the assembled representatives of 47 different species. The hearing was being broadcast across the galaxy, and early reports suggested it was drawing the largest audience in Council history. Everyone, it seemed, wanted to hear what the dangerous humans had to say for themselves. The Council chamber was an impressive sight, a vast amphitheater with seating arranged in concentric circles around a central speaking platform. Each species had its own section, with environmental controls adjusted for their specific needs. Aquatic species floated in transparent tubes filled with their homeworld's water. Crystalline beings sparkled under carefully tuned light sources. Energy beings manifested as shimmering fields of colored light. At the center of it all sat Arbitrator Prime Veltar, a member of the ancient keeper species whose role it was to maintain order and ensure justice. Veltar looked like a cross between a tree and a spider, with bark-like skin and 8 limbs that moved with deliberate grace. The question before this council, Veltar began, its voice resonating through the chamber's translation systems, is whether humanity poses a genuine threat to galactic civilization, and if so, what measures should be taken to address that threat. The hegemony's representative, a different ambassador since Kletak had been relieved of duty, rose to speak first. Honored arbitrator, the evidence is clear. Humans are classified as Deathworlders, a species evolved on a world so hostile that it has shaped them into natural predators. Their rapid expansion, their militaristic tendencies, and their disregard for established protocols make them a clear and present danger to peaceful species throughout the galaxy. Murmurs of agreement came from several sections of the chamber, but Zara noticed that many more remained silent. When her turn came to speak, Zara stood and walked to the central platform. She could feel the weight of thousands of eyes, or their alien equivalents, upon her. The fate of her entire species might well depend on what she said in the next few minutes. Honored arbitrator, distinguished representatives, she began, I won't deny that humans are different from most galactic species. We evolved on a world that was harsh, dangerous, and unforgiving. But I'd like to ask this council to consider what that really means. She gestured, and a holographic display appeared showing Earth in all its blue and green glory. This is our world. Yes, it has volcanoes and earthquakes and hurricanes. Yes, it has predators with claws and teeth. But it also has something else, incredible diversity. Our world didn't just try to kill us, it taught us to adapt, to cooperate, to find solutions to impossible problems. The display shifted to show images of human achievements, cities rising from desert sands, underwater research stations, space elevators reaching toward the stars. We learned to live in harmony with our dangerous world, not by conquering it, but by understanding it. That same drive to adapt and overcome is what allowed us to develop spaceflight, to reach for the stars, to dream of taking our place among the galactic community. Zara paused, looking around the chamber. But the hegemony saw only the danger, not the potential. They looked at us and saw predators, not explorers. They saw a threat to be contained, not a species that might contribute something valuable to galactic civilization. And what would that contribution be? Asked the hegemony representative skeptically. Zara smiled. 3 weeks ago, when the hegemony fleet attacked our system, over 200 ships from 17 different species came to our aid. Not because we asked them to, but because they recognized that an attack on one species' sovereignty was an attack on everyone's freedom. She gestured again, and the display showed the aftermath of the battle. Human ships working alongside alien vessels to rescue survivors, repair damaged ships, and clear debris from shipping lanes. In the days since then, human engineers have been working with Vorthan technicians to develop new propulsion systems. Our biologists have been collaborating with swarm researchers to study ecosystem management. Our musicians have been jamming with the Melodic Collective, and yes, that's as awesome as it sounds.
Laughter echoed through the chamber, an encouraging sign that the audience was warming to her message. The hegemony was right about one thing, Zara continued. We are different. We do see problems differently than most species. But maybe that's exactly what the galaxy needs.
Maybe what you need isn't another civilization that plays by the established rules, but one that asks whether those rules are still working. She looked directly at the hegemony section. The containment protocols you try to invoke were written thousands of years ago, when the galaxy was smaller and simpler.
But the galaxy has grown.
New species are being discovered every year, new worlds are being colonized, new challenges are emerging.
Maybe it's time to consider that the old ways of doing things aren't always the best ways.
The chamber fell silent as Zara returned to her seat. Arbitrator Prime Veltar's limbs moved in what might have been contemplation before it spoke.
The Council will now hear testimony from other species regarding their interactions with humanity. What followed was a parade of witnesses that surprised everyone, especially the hegemony representatives. War leader Thrax of the Vorthan Republic spoke about human innovation in military engineering.
Symphony of Warsongs testified about the unexpected beauty of human music and its effect on melodic philosophy. Even Hivemind Unit 777 Alpha, speaking for the notoriously xenophobic Swarm Consciousness, admitted that human unpredictability had led to breakthroughs in collective thinking. But the most powerful testimony came from an unexpected source, a young hegemony citizen named Revel, who had been working as a cultural exchange student on a human research station when the crisis began. I was terrified when I first arrived at the human facility, Revel admitted, its crystalline voice trembling slightly. Everything I had been taught told me that humans were dangerous, unpredictable, violent. But during my time there, I saw something different. The chamber listened in rapt attention as Revel described human kindness, their willingness to help a lone alien student feel welcome, their patience in explaining concepts that seemed obvious to them but alien to others.
When the evacuation order came, Revel continued, the humans could have simply left me behind. According to hegemony doctrine, I was expendable, an acceptable loss in the larger conflict. But they didn't leave me. They made sure I was safe, that I got home to my family. They risked their lives to save someone they barely knew, simply because it was the right thing to do. By the time Revel finished speaking, there wasn't a dry optical sensor in the house. The council's deliberation lasted 3 days, during which Zara found herself in the strange position of being a celebrity. Reporters from dozens of species wanted interviews, cultural attaches wanted to discuss exchange programs, and scientists wanted to collaborate on research projects. The dangerous humans, it seemed, had become the most popular species in the galaxy almost overnight. When the council reconvened, Arbitrator Prime Veltar took the platform with an air of formal ceremony. After careful consideration of all evidence and testimony, Veltar announced, this council finds that while humanity is indeed a unique species with capabilities that distinguish them from the galactic norm, they do not constitute a threat to galactic civilization. The chamber erupted in cheers from some sections and disappointed murmurs from others. Furthermore, Veltar continued, raising one limb for silence, this council finds that the hegemony's actions violated the fundamental principles of galactic law and sovereignty. The containment operation was unauthorized, illegal, and counterproductive to the goal of maintaining peace and stability in known space. The hegemony section fell silent, their representatives slumping in their seats. However, Veltar said, and Zara felt her heart skip a beat, this council also recognizes that humanity's rapid expansion and unique cultural perspectives may require special consideration. Oh no, Zara thought. Here comes the catch.
Therefore, humanity is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. Additionally, a new protocol is established for the integration of species with non-standard development patterns. This protocol, to be known as the Human Doctrine, will ensure that future first contacts are handled with greater cultural sensitivity and understanding. The chamber exploded in noise as representatives from various species tried to speak at once. But Veltar wasn't finished. Finally, in recognition of their demonstrated restraint and diplomatic maturity during the recent crisis, humanity is granted permanent membership on the Council Security Committee, with authority to help mediate disputes between species and prevent future unauthorized military actions.
Zara sat in stunned silence as the implications hit her.
Not only had humanity avoided containment, they'd been promoted to one of the most powerful positions in galactic government. The species that the hegemony had tried to cage was now one of their judges.
Justice, she thought, could be beautifully ironic sometimes. 6 months later, Zara stood on the observation deck of humanity's first purpose-built diplomatic vessel, the New Horizons, watching Earth grow larger in the viewscreen.
She was returning from the inaugural meeting of the Human Galactic Cultural Exchange Program, an initiative that had grown out of the Council hearings and was already facilitating cooperation between dozens of species. The past half-year had been a whirlwind of activity. Human ships were no longer modified mining vessels and converted freighters, but sleek new designs that incorporated the best of human engineering and alien technology. Human colonies were springing up on worlds that other species considered too dangerous to inhabit, serving as research stations and cultural embassies for the galaxy's more adventurous citizens. Most importantly, the reputation of humans had undergone a complete transformation. Where once they had been feared as dangerous Deathworlders, they were now sought after as problem-solvers, innovators, and mediators. Their unique perspective, shaped by evolution on a hostile world, made them ideal candidates for handling the kinds of challenges that stumped more conventional species. Captain, her communications officer called out, "We're receiving a priority message from Earth Defense Command."
"Put it through."
Admiral Okafor's face appeared on the screen, and Zara was pleased to see her looking more relaxed than she had in months. The crisis had aged her, but the successful resolution seemed to have given her new energy.
"Captain Chen, welcome home," Okafor said with a smile. "I trust your mission was successful?"
"Very much so, Admiral. We've got preliminary agreements for joint research projects with 12 species, cultural exchange programs with 8 others, and what might be the galaxy's first interspecies jazz fusion band."
Okafor laughed. Only humans would turn a diplomatic crisis into a musical opportunity. "Well done, Captain."